Welcome to Drinks Coach. Time for my second in a string, hopefully, of kind of New World shows, because I didn't do enough New World shows up until this point. I think we must be approaching 180 shows, 190 shows, and I've just not done enough Australia and New Zealand. And we're on a New Zealand kick here. Last time I did a show on Marlborough. Has variety within Marlborough. There are subdivisions, and it was showing the difference between Waitrose and Tera, and a bit of the history of one of the most modern and most recent fine wine regions. Moving on to red wines from New Zealand. This is a story, and again, to pick up on what I said before. Oh, by the way, yes, my name's Joe Wadsack. If you haven't seen me before, you are watching Drinks Coach. Drinks Coach up there. Hit the bell, subscribe. It's at Vinesack on social media, Vinesack. Please get me more subscribers. I want more people to feel the love. Where was I? Yes, some of these shows I do because people come up to me and say, "Oh, Joe, I don't know anything about Greek wine. Can you tell me about Greek wine?" And in the old days, I would then sit down with my passion and love and parochals and benevolence, just start telling them about wine for an hour and a half, and I'd lose that an hour and a half. And I must have done on certain wine topics, particularly things like sherry, I must have done that 100, if not hundreds of times for people, which they're all very grateful for. But now what I can do is I can say, look at episodes 57, 58 and 60 or whatever on my channel. Just search the Drinks Coach UK channel for sherry, and you'll find 3 shows. If you watch them tonight on your phone, I'll tell you everything you need to know about it. So I can now pass people onto it or give people remote learning. The last show was about the fact that people, I think that Marlborough is almost a flavour profile, but it's not. It's a giant area within which very subtly different, or not, in some cases not so subtle, variations in flavour happen. So I did that last time. This time I'm doing about New Zealand Pinot Noir. Yes, people have heard about New Zealand Pinot Noir in the main, if you like Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is the hardest grape variety to grow, probably. No, it's quite easy to grow. It's just hard to grow well. That's the point. The problem is it does to run ragged and produce fairly ordinary stuff. But we're not interested in ordinary Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir should be the best of the best. The world's most expensive wine, Domaine La Romani Conti. £10,000, £15,000 a bottle. Pretty crazy, huh? But that's because they've got like 2 barrels of it, and they've got 400 Chinese billionaires to feed, so they can charge what they want. So Pinot Noir is kind of a holy grail in terms of finding a good one, and we know that you can buy New Zealand Pinot Noir in the mid-teens, which is really very good, and that's already a bit of an achievement. It's very hard to find good Pinot Noir under a tenner. Romania's got a little bit, but it's not. It's very simple wine. It's what you expect to get for the money, when Pinot Noir should be so much more. When I think about the first time I drank a great Pinot Noir, I had what I loosely called the Pinot Noir epiphany, because everyone seems to have had at least one, where you have this kind of moment, this Jake Elwood Blues and Blues Brothers standing in front of the light, coming through the stained glass moment of, I've seen the light. And you spend the rest of your life having that feeling again the first time you drunk a delicious Pinot Noir, which is it's literally seduction. It's love at first sight. It's like a drug. For me, it was Louis Jadot Chambord Musigny 1982. Not even a particularly good year, a very warm year in fact, but the wine just smelled of soft, squishy wild strawberries, and as a 17-year-old, that was it. I was hooked on wine. So anyway, this is from another show. So Pinot Noir, well, I've got 3 Pinot Noirs here. I could have done 4 or 5, because again, this is a very, very simple diagrammatic program to show those people probably on level 3 or level 4 of their WSETs, to demonstrate the differences that they need to know between Pinot Noir from, I think we'd call the 3 core regions in New Zealand. When you say New Zealand Pinot Noir, most people go, Central Otago, yeah. And that's where some of the most expensive stuff is. It's where some of the most mind-blowing Pinot Noirs come from. Felton Road must not be ignored. 2 paddocks, Sam Neill, beautiful wines. Mount Difficulty, Mount Edward. There's some really wonderful Ripon. I could go on. Anyway, Quartz Reef. I should stop now. So we've got a wine from Santa Otago here. It's called Nanny Goat, and it's very, very good. And it's currently available in Waitrose, funny enough. There's also a drink called Super Nanny, if you really want to go hard on this, which is really brilliant. Santa Otago Pinot Noir. And I know for a fact that Noel Young Wines, or nywines.co.uk, near Cambridge, stocks it, and he'll ship it to you. What have we else got? Well, we've got Santa Otago. The other region which people talk about, I think, largely is Marlborough. Marlborough is the other place where you're likely to get large quantities of Pinot Noir. Certainly, you're more likely to get more value Pinot Noir from Marlborough. But I think some of the best wine in New Zealand is Marlborough Pinot Noir. If you get to drink Hans wine, we call it Hans Herzog here. Or Herzog, Hans Herzog. It's called Hans Herzog. But they make a beautiful Pinot Noir. From Vineyards at the Clavin Vineyard, incredible Pinot Noir. So there are wines there which are every bit as good as the much more celebrated and vaunted Central Otago. Now, I think it's important that I kind of tell you roughly where these places are. Okay, so we've got the North Island. Gisborne, you've got the island areas around Auckland, you've got the hills and the islands north of that, places like Waiheke Island are capable of making really lovely wine. If you go down New Zealand, on the east coast, you've got Gisborne, very warm, makes some beautiful wines. Milton makes some lovely wines, beautiful Viognier, I think, and they're biodynamic, wonderful, but it's very, very warm, and a lot of warm Chardonnay comes from there. If you go further down that part, you get into Hawke's Bay, you get into Hastings and that area, and some of the oldest wineries and some of the best terroirs, certainly for making things like Syrah. It's funny thing is that we can all name it as wine lovers, Syrahs and Pinot Noirs in New Zealand, but in terms of percentage volume produced, compared to just Sauvignon Blanc, it's like 1 or 2%. They're tiny, tiny production, but really worth seeking out. Then you get down to Martinborough, which is bottom of the North Island. And then we have in the top of the South Island, you've got Napier and Marlborough. And then you go down to Nelson along the coast. If you go inland from there, down, we'll get as far as Christchurch. You go inland, you go to Waitrose Springs, areas which can be very, very cold and very warm, depending on which part of the valley you're in. And you can go all the way further down in Invercargill, which is full of Cornish-sounding miners. And then you eventually get to a place called Queenstown, which is the bottom, almost glacial bottom, most southerly winemaking region in the world. You can see snow glaciers to the left when you're sitting in Wanaka facing the west, mountain of purple gum trees, and then desert, high altitude, kind of like rough land to the right. Most extraordinary sort of capriccio of different kind of climates and soils all mixed together around Queenstown. And it's the crazy extreme sports playground for all you snowboarders and bungee jumpers out there. Yeah, I've done it too, and it didn't snap. Anyway, so Central Otago, very, very warm, huge ozone hole in the sky. We've got Martinborough, which is the one north of Marlborough in the other island, and is one that you have to include. Although there isn't much Pinot Noir made in Martinborough, I mean, it's known for it, but it's not generally a large production region. But when you look at the wines that are made there by Craggy Range at Tamuna, or the wonderful Palliser Estates and many others, it needs to be mentioned in the pantheon of Pinot Noirs around the world, in the whole world, because it's unique, has a unique flavour profile, I think. And then you've got the Marlborough Pinot Noirs. So, it's taken me 9 minutes to talk gibberish again. We're going to start with Marlborough, which is the most French, it's got the highest acidity. Then we're going to go to Martinborough, which is a bit warmer. You're going further north toward the equator, that kind of makes some sense. But also, because of climatic conditions and dryness and a little bit of drought, you get these wonderful, soft, warm, cosy, clovey, spiced flavours. Wonderful little kind of touches, which really, really, it's a real thing, anyway. And then we're going to go right down to the south, where, in fact, weirdly, the most brutal weather exists, and in Central Otago, around Bendigo or anywhere else, in Bannockburn and a few other places, it's almost wear a spacesuit hot. You know, sunscreen is never enough. And for that reason, you get incredible ripeness in the flavours in the grapes. But they've also got this wonderful striated limestone soil, which is perfect for making Pinot Noir. And if you have ever had a chance to drink anything from Cornish Point or upwards, from Nigel Greening's wonderful Felton Road, then you'll know what I'm talking about. This is some of the world's finest Pinot Noir, world's finest. Okay, let's hit the first one. Now, this is Yealands. We had a Yealands Sauvignon Blanc and Aratray in the show last time. They're some Sauvignon Blanc specialists, I guess. They make other varieties too, of course. But I was very surprised when I tasted how delicious this was. Thanks again, Louise, for getting this sent to me. It was a bit tricky in the end, but she very kindly persevered. So this is Aratray Pinot Noir. So it's from in Marlborough. It's in the south coastal region, in the hills. It's 2020, so we're now 4 years old. Nearly 4. I really love this wine. I mean, there are a lot of places that are Pinot Noir specialists that you think I'd just go straight to. But this one was terrific. It's got a lovely colour to it. Pinot Noir is not supposed to be dark. It's big grapes with thin skins. It's got a lovely kind of brightness to it. There's no pallor there at all. It's got a lovely cherry, red, blue, red mauve hint to it. There's no browning at the edge yet. It's 4 years old. It's like picking up an Irancy. This is really like a warm vintage of a lesser known appellation or commune in Burgundy. There is a precision to it that belies it being French, if I'm honest. You can tell it's likely to be New World because there is accuracy here. Concentrate on the job, Joe. So, wine 1. Why is it Marlborough Pinot? What am I looking for? Well, colours aren't dark. Generally not massively high in alcohol. It doesn't have higher alcohol as some of the other regions. I think we're looking at here 13.5. It's okay. It has a brightness. It has a sour cherry finish. And it's toothsome and lifted and fresh. There's a little bit of florality as well, a little bit of kind of blossom going on there. And that was in a warm year. If this has run out and you can't find it, this is the 2020 Yealands Pinot Noir, and you can only find the 2021, don't fear, because 21 is a mega vintage. It'll be absolutely stunning. And it'll be, I imagine, at least as good as this rather nice wine here. We're now moving on to a wine which is Tera, and it comes from the Martinborough Vineyard. Martinborough Vineyards started a long while ago and was set up by the first true pioneer of Pinot Noir in Martinborough, Larry McKenna, who then went on to sell it for good money and then set up another winery in Tamuna called The Escarpment, which also makes incredible wine. I think he's now then sold that. He's still working for them. I don't know, as a global consultant, as a brand ambassador, whether he's still making the wine there. But The Escarpment has also made some really magical Pinot Noir over the years. So this is the first time I put a Martinborough, remember that, not Marlborough, a Martinborough Pinot Noir in my mouth in many, many years. So this is from the vineyard, the Martinborough Vineyard, which in 1995, at $14.95 a bottle, no, maybe less, won Best Red Wine of Show at the International Wine Challenge. Wouldn't have been in 95, it would have been a couple of years after that, but I remember the 95 doing incredibly well. So this isn't its first rodeo. It's been around for some decades now. Now I'm looking at the colour. If anything, this is marginally paler than the last one. There is a premium wine. Tera is kind of like their sort of village. Then they have a single cru, which is more expensive, I think. And this is available currently at the Wine Society. So this is the Wine Society, if you remember. Apologies if it's run out because it's quite popular, but I know they're going to, it's very successful. I know they'll bring in the next vintage, so be patient. Again, this is 2020 and it's delicious. So the 2021 is going to be a banger. It's going to be very good. Okay, so if this is in a competition and I'm marking a Master of Wine exam And I'm saying these are 3 New Zealand Pinot Noirs, or 3 Pinot Noirs around the world. And somebody doesn't get Martinborough on this one, I would score them 0. Yes. I think this is so absolutely classic of the region. You have to experience Martinborough Pinot a couple of times just to memorise the flavour profile, but then you don't forget it. It is unique. Or maybe it's to me, I don't know. There's a flavour though. It's like roasted sweet carrots on the nose. I always, when I smell this, want a big balloon of this. And then in my head, I'm imagining a really slow-cooked beef stew with carrots in. That sweet, wonderful thing between beef and carrot. Maybe with a puff pastry top and a few green beans on the side. This wine has a warm, fuzzy, very faintly mace, nutmeg, clove glow. And it's as smooth as a baby's arse. It is. It's got lovely pick-up fruit tannin at the end. Obviously, the wine's been aged in wood for some time, but it's got a kind of a toothsome, soft, gentle, velvety tannin, which I find very, very attractive indeed. This is way under 20 quid, I think. No. Oh, it'll be in the description below. But anyway. Two very nice Pinot Noirs so far. I have no complaints this end. Moving on to the Central Otago example. This is Nanny, as I said, Central Otago. This is 2022. Alcohol levels, we've gone 13.5. This one's 13.5 too. And this one is 14. What did I say? Central Otago's punchy stuff. Just look at the colours. This wine has a much darker hue and a bluer, more velvety hue. It's more vivid. This can be done partly because some other winemaking techniques are preferred in the south of New Zealand, in Central Otago. There's a thing called the ACAD process, where you steep the grapes in cold juice for a while before you start fermenting them. It gives them a pre-soak, a pre-extraction, which is a way that fine Syrah in the Rhone, certainly places like Cornas and stuff, is where they reduce the tannic component but increase the flavour component in Syrah. And often I found in the early days, so in the late 90s, mid-90s, early noughties, I found that a lot of New Zealand Pinot Noir smelled rather disturbingly Shiraz-like, or Syrah-like, not Shiraz. That kind of like French Syrah, not spicy big bean Shiraz. But they've either balanced that technology or that technique better, or they don't do it as much. But well, aren't I a clever boy? They've all done exactly what I hoped they would. They do smell exactly, I hope taste exactly like they should per region. So the nose, a little bit more spicy on the nose, more alcoholic, more austere, very desert-like. There's a tense dryness to the wine, a bit like, almost like Greek red, like a Xin or Marlborough. But of course, those wines are very, very high in acid. So very high. This wine has brightness, it's chewy, it's got more power than the other two. It's got more horsepower in the wine, it's punchy. Where I'd go, oh, I love that with a salad or roast chicken. Here I'd go venison. Something with darker, deeper flavours. It would be very nice with wild woodland mushrooms, with shiitake, that kind of thing. So what does it actually smell and taste like? What description would I give it? Strong Marasca sour cherry, but also Morello. There's a fruitier cherry, a deeper cherry flavour there, an aroma. There's a palpable rammed earthiness, like there's some soil. There's more terroir flavour there. It's got a chew to it. It's got a warm, nutty, very faintly vanilla-y nutmeggy, again, flavour. But it tastes from very much warmer place, despite the fact that it's virtually in the Antarctic. It's extraordinary. But that wine is a really delicious wine, doing what it's supposed to do. I'm sure, after many, many years of experimentation, it ages very well under screw cap. It would be nice to drink that even 2 or 3 years later. But as it is now, chuck it in a jug or just pour it into a big glass like I did. Perfect wine with roast turkey, I think, is my assumption there. Martinborough, smilier, a little bit more kind of green basil creeping in, spicy, like black and green cardamom almost. And then you come to this one, again, coming back down the line. 20 minutes is more like it. Suddenly I'm in France. Suddenly it's much more European, paler, fresher, lighter, raspberries. I really like that wine. It's 2 years older than this. So, there you go. New Zealand Pinot Noir, broken into 3. We could have done it in more detail over more time, but I didn't want to bore you. See you next time.